Hello and welcome back to Ensuring Success 2024. We're so glad you're here with us today. We are about to provide a really fascinating session on providing an ideal client experience. But before we do that, I want to first of all mention all of our sponsors who are making this event possible and enabling us to provide free CPE for all of you who are attending. And those sponsors are ADP, Avalara, Canopy, CPA.com, eFile4Biz, WriteWorks, SafeSend, SureLink, Wolters Kluwer, Xero, and Zoho. And in particular, this particular session is sponsored by BOTKEEPER. And we are so happy to have Enrico here from BOTKEEPER and BOTKEEPER sponsoring this event. Before we get into this session, I want to explain real briefly how CPE works if you're just joining us. So the way we do it is 3 times during the session, we'll make a quick break, and during that break, we will display on the bottom of the screen a 3-digit code, and we'll remind you to write down that code because you'll hear this bell. Okay, and so when you hear that bell, remember to write down the code. So there are 3-digit codes for this session. When you're all done later today, tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever you want, you can come back to our site, and at the top of the screen there's a CPE/CE menu option. Click that and it'll let you enter all those codes that you wrote down, and you can download your certificates from there. Okay, so this session is on providing an ideal client experience. One more piece of housekeeping is if you want to ask any questions of our speakers during the session, you can enter them in the Ask a Question box on the bottom of your screen. If you are having any technical difficulty and want to talk to our tech crew in the background, go to the email address at the bottom of your screen, which is info@EnsuringSuccess.com, and you can reach them there if you need immediate help. Okay, I'm going to introduce our speakers real quickly and let them tell you a little bit about themselves. And they are Michael Su, Enrico Palmerino, and Terrell Turner, and our co-moderator, Alexandra DeFelice. Michael, take it away.
Perfect. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Su. I run a company called Deep Sky. It's been 15 years of outsourced CFO, and that's all I do. I do that very well.
Awesome. Hey everyone, Enrico Palmerino. I'm the founder and CEO of BOTKEEPER. BOTKEEPER is an AI automated solution for accounting firms to take a lot of the busy, mundane, time-consuming work off your plate, so you could really focus on the strategic and advisory and relationship side of the equation.
Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the CEO of the TL Turner Group. We focus on making accounting a lot simpler for law firms, and outside of that, I do a ton of content creation across the legal and the accounting industry.
Okay. And I am Alexandra DeFelice, Director of Marketing and Business Development for Payne & Fears Law Firm in Southern California. Previously worked for several different accounting firms, and I will be co-moderating with Gail throughout the next 2 days.
All right, thanks. Well, let's start with a little conversation about clients and what clients expect from their accountants today. Can we start there? Sure. What are you guys seeing?
Everyone wants things right away, like instant. There's, Amazon's done an incredible job at creating instant gratification, aholics in the space, and I think that's now perpetrated its way into the accounting sector. So whether it's signing up, whether it's getting financials, they want them faster. No longer waiting 15, 20 days after the end of the month. And response time on things. It's just they want to see their data updated immediately. Mm-hmm. So I think the speed has been a major change.
So real-time accounting is what we're seeing more and more from the technology?
Real-time accounting, and I'd say out-of-the-box solutions. They don't, I think businesses, and I don't know about you, but with all the tech I have at my disposal, it's not like I'm working fewer hours a day or have more free time. So the same thing goes. I think with business owners, when they finish their last client call, that's when they have a chance to look at their bookkeeping, or if it's a problem, they want it solved. They don't want to be trying to schedule a call during their prime time tomorrow to have a discussion about their accounting and figure out a solution. So at 11 o'clock at night, you got to be able to sign up clients, and I think that's definitely changing the way services are being done.
That's very interesting.
I would say, I mean, if you'd have asked me maybe 5 to 10 years ago, I'd probably told you they want, really good financials. They want to understand what's going on. I would say over the last 5 years, I feel like we in the accounting industry have shifted from just the numbers to now they want us to help them feel comfortable about the numbers. And I feel like we spend a lot more time what I call financial therapy when you start getting into advisory, because I think they're trying to figure out what decisions to make, and there's so much uncertainty in so many different areas of our client's business that they're really looking for us to play a bigger role in that decision-making process. And hey, what are my options, and which option do you think is the right one? And I think that as we're being pulled into that more is really more of they want to feel comfortable about their numbers, what decisions to make next, and we play a bigger role in that.
It's really the peace of mind, right? It's really the peace of mind that CEOs need to get, because we work with entrepreneurs for 15 years. And I think we know entrepreneurs, right? These guys are fast, they're smart, they know technicals, but financials are usually their weakest spot. And I say this to members in our CFO club, which is like, now more than ever, we can create so much value for our clients because they absolutely need our insight, right? They're going 100 miles an hour, but they need to know that they need a navigator, right? They need somebody, if they're the Captain Kirk, they need the Spock on their ship, right? To be able to tell them, hey, we're going this way, watch out for this, watch out for that, and so on and so forth. So I think, now more than ever, we're in this unique spot. We need to have more business acumen to be able to, timely and accurate financials is a promise that's table stake now. Back in the days, we'll go around and be like, oh yeah, we'll provide timely and accurate financial statement. But nowadays, it's like, okay.
That's where you start.
And timely back then was like the 20th of the month. And now, an entrepreneur is like, hey, the month just closed. I know what my sales are. Where's my financial situation? And they're making decisions at the beginning of the next month that are going to either add additional expenses or could totally throw their financial situation off plan. So they want to know, they don't want to wait until after they realize they went another month in the wrong direction to find out what's going on.
You hit it on the spot, because, the bigger the business is, the slower the ship move, right? Imagine a big ship that you're turning. The decision that I make today won't come into effect until 30, 60, 90 days later. The element of time needs to be highlighted.
Totally.
So if I'm making a decision on the 20th of the month, it's too late. The month is already gone.
Yeah.
Right? So I think most accountants don't understand that, and we're so caught up on how accurate it is. And we're like, oh man, it's not ready. No, it's pretty good. At Deep Sky, even 15 years ago, we talked about good enough, fast enough, actionable data.
Yep.
It isn't timely and accurate, right? Because if it's accurate on the 20th, it's already too late.
Well, yeah, if you just do a work back, if by the 20th you just receive the financials, how many days go by before you can actually take time to review them and look at them? Then how many days go by before you sit with your team to do something based on what you got? And then how many days before that, whatever you did takes effect? You're now making changes 2-3 months later based on 3 months ago worth of data. And in the meantime, entrepreneurs move quick. They're doing a lot of different things. In the meantime, your business could have totally changed in the 2 months that have happened since you started acting on the data.
Yeah. And I think that's why also Terrell has a pretty similar setup as we are, right? That you go to sleep at night, and then in the morning you wake up and your data is ready. That setup, that's why it works, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we really had to change the way we actually work in our firm, to where we went to hiring an offshore team that works in a completely different time zone, because those expectations of speed have really forced us to say, all right, are we going to stay up all night long doing this, or are we going to revolutionize our business model to say, okay, how do we solve this problem to really give our customers what they need? Because I feel like for the accountants, our focus used to be on what happened in the past. Now our clients are pulling us more into the present and the future of, all right, you need to give me what the present looks like very fast, so then we can start having conversations about, okay, what does this mean for the future?
I want to delve into that a little bit more, but I think we need to take a quick break, Gail.
Yeah, we'd like to show you the first CPE code for this session. So be sure to write that number down if you're planning on collecting CPE credit for attending this session.
So when we were prepping for this session, Terrell mentioned the outsourcing to the Philippines, I think, right? And Gail and I made this face like, oh my God, everyone's going to freak out on this webinar. What are we going to do? What is your approach to your clients who are lawyers? And I work for lawyers, so they're even more risk adverse. How do you talk to them about your processes?
Yeah, so I think upfront when you're going through that, whether it's client onboarding or really through the sales process, is we bring it up in the sales process because I don't want to onboard a new client and then a month in, this comes up and now it's an issue. Mm-hmm. So we tell them up front and really just understanding like, if this isn't comfortable for you, and we'll answer whatever questions you have, we'll let you know about our process. If this isn't comfortable for you, we're not the right firm for you because we're not going to revolutionize our business model just to make one or two customers happy. And so the way we usually approach that is, we let them know we do have staff that are offshore and here's what that staff does. And then we listen for any questions that they may have or any concerns. And sometimes those concerns are around security. So we'll talk through, here's how they access the data. Here's the limitations that they have. Here's the audit trail and the record that we have of what they're able to access. And here are the layers of internal review. So if anything happens, no one person has exclusive access to all the data. So we can always check and we can identify those things. And we usually talk them through that process. And what we're finding is a lot of, the lawyers and the law firms that we're working with, a lot of them have already offshored their sales team, or maybe they've started offshoring some of their paralegal work. So we're realizing it's not as new as it used to be. But when we do come across some of those concerns, I think you got to have the conversation up front and just take it head on.
Yeah, and we just came off of a security sessions where we talked about having dedicated computers, audit trails, all of that. So and you said you could really quickly reconcile something if it were to happen, right? If there was some kind of issue, you would be aware of it really quickly.
Absolutely. I mean, we had one client where there was an issue where there were some fraudulent checks that had gotten cashed. And so we saw it immediately and we looked into it. We asked the client about it. And the first thing the client said is, hey, was this anyone on your team? Mm-mm. We went back, we looked at the audit records and we realized, no, this actually was a breach on your end. Like someone had breached their account through their login. I was like, none of it is on our end. And what it did for the client is, yes, it was an unfortunate situation because they had to go back and figure this out. But for them, they had a lot more comfort because within 24 hours, we could come back to them and say, here's our audit trail. We know it wasn't us, but we found it was actually on your end. And then what it did, it made them trust us a lot more because they're like, well, you guys have a really good process in place. Now I need to go figure out my own security because like I said, the breach was on their side.
Right, and we're seeing this just how we started off of like, we're going to see this rolled out throughout the next 2 days about advisory services being more than just their accountant. They want you for everything. You're be my cyber person. I have a fire in my house, call the fire department. I don't know what to tell you, but we've always wanted it. We've always aimed to be their trusted advisors, right? And I feel like now it's like the time, right?
And I think a big part of it is time. Like you just didn't have, even if you had the skill set and like the persona to be a great advisor, you were scrambling to get last month's books done by the 20th of this month, only to then start this month's books and hope to get it done by the 15th to the 20th of the following month. So it was just like this rat race of getting all the data processed. And for the first time, technology is doing a lot of the processing, a lot of the analysis, and then actually putting it in the hands of the accountant to take and then make sense of and spend the time with the client. And frankly, like you couldn't do that before.
Yeah, we talked about this at your BOTKEEPER session actually before. It's like now more than ever, everybody talks about technology, AI. I think every 10 years there's something coming in that's gonna, ruin the profession. But but the truth is now more than ever, because of technology, are doing so much of the work to not be replaced by AI or technology. And I say this over and over. Now is the time to be more human than ever.
Totally.
I love that, and it's a great. All right, we now for the first time mentioned the AI, the two letters that is going to freak people out, and we talked about this during the planning session. About I'm going to go with Enrico first. About what do you give the robots to do, and what do you give the humans to do?
So I'd say you give the robots anything that is high volume to do, and it's all the work that doesn't make your life like more meaningful or wholesome. You're not going to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, I can't wait to code some transactions today. It's like, or if that is what you're waking up to, then like maybe AI is going to replace you. But if you're waking up and you're like, I can't wait to change the lives of my clients. I can't wait to help a business succeed or get to profitability. I can't wait to help this client get the loan or the line of credit that they need, or like assist them on how to improve their gross margins. Like if that's what you're looking forward to doing, all the other things that aren't that, you want to shift to the AI. So coding of transactions, doing reconciliations, like anything that's monotonous and busy. And actually the easiest way to look at it is anything that's repetitive. Because those advisory discussions you're having with the client on a monthly basis, or the things that you're doing in that realm, are always going to be dynamic and changing on a month-over-month basis. Recs is the same thing every single month. Transaction coding, same thing. Fetching statements is the same thing. Like all of those things are the perfect things to hand off to the AI, because frankly, it's going to do it better than you. It's got more data to learn from than you have seen in all the clients over the 30 years or however many years you've been doing it for. And it's going to do it consistently, whether or not you're feeling sick or under the weather or something bad happened, day in and day out, all night long. It's going to be processing transactions. So then you can wake up in the morning and be like, I have something to work off of, not work on.
Awesome. And Michael, can you just add on to that in terms of the human touch, and where should they be spending more time on the human touch?
I think you shift. The way I see it is you look at it as an orchestra, right? There's so much happening, AP, AR, so on and so forth. But accountants have moved away from first violin into the role of the conductor and the maestro, right? Instead of, hey, I'm playing this part or I'm playing this part, I'm conducting the whole thing so the music plays, right? The idea is, well, there's two things that's got to happen for you to do that. Number one, you got to upskill yourself. You got to up-level. You got to be able to have more business acumen to understand what these numbers mean when it comes to business, right? Mm-hmm. No longer is, hey, I can do reconciliation the fastest, or I can do, I know the code the best, so on and so forth. But more so like, what do all of these things mean? And the second thing is that human element of, I like Enrico. Yeah. I like Terrell. So this is the connection that no machine will ever replace, right? So whatever Enrico needs, Enrico might say, hey, you know what? I need to know my forecast for the next 3 months, right? I need to understand if I can expand into these 5 different new technologies. I, being the maestro, knows what I need. Hey, pull this financial statement from here, pull that from here. Have AI and tech and offshoring and outsourcing, pull all of that, and then have that conversation with Enrico, because I understand Enrico, what his risk tolerance is, what his personality is, what his life outside of the business is. I think that's what I mean by being more human, being more connected. He will never replace me at that conversation, but everything else had already been replaced. It's either done by machines or other people.
And it's funny because it's just a matter of getting to the point where your client knows the name of their accountant like really well and knows that person. Yeah. And most clients, in an ideal state, your clients at a point, or like I'm at a point where like, you got to meet my accountant. He's amazing. Yeah, we'll go grab lunch or dinner or whatever, or we'll hop on a call. You'll love him. And if you could actually give some context around your accountant's life and stuff, like imagine you would have had to have enough interactions with that person that wouldn't just be, here's a set of financials and reporting and go on your way. And so I think doubling down on the human side is definitely paramount.
We have every client at Deep Sky these days after 15 years are either my friends originally or they have become my friends. Yeah. Right? And that's what it is. And it's the same thing with all of our outsourced CFO. They have their own network and their own friends. Even though they all fly under the same flag of Deep Sky and we all have the same processes and the same tech, I can never go and take, let's say, Vanya's clients and go, hey, you should come with me now, right? Like I left this company, because they're like, no, I like Vanya. Yeah. Right? Because, she's a lot more subtle, she's nicer, sweeter, and then like I'm just like in your face all the time. So again, being that personality, you'll never be able to be replaced.
And you could swap the word friend with trust.
Yeah.
That's what you've built, is like they can trust that their books are going to get handled properly with you at the helm.
1,000%. These are the financial livelihood of people. I tell my accountants on day one, these are not just numbers on paper. These are, and they're like, yeah, it's money. No, it's not just money. These are people's livelihood.
Yeah.
These are their employees' livelihood.
I think Terrell had something to add, and I have a question if you're not going to foresee the question.
I wanted to actually ask a question because, I mean, get everyone's opinion here. So, accountants are not known for being the people who develop relationships the best. I mean, and I say this as an accountant myself. So, I mean, from your perspective, as those jobs or those assignments get handed to AI, there is a little bit of a short-term gap that happens for the humans. Like, how do you think about getting the humans comfortable with letting go some of that stuff so the AI can do it, and then we can kind of lean into the skill we may not necessarily be the most known for, which is the relationships?
Yeah.
I think AI is actually going to bridge the gap, and like in a weird way, because AI is now at a point where it can assist in the processing, it can put together analytics and financials, and frankly have the financials be like dynamic, where it's highlighting the specific things that changed or happened last month that you should focus on, not all the other irrelevant stuff. And then it will give a narrative. So the first step of you going from, am I comfortable talking to my client about their business and giving them advice, may just be read what the AI wrote and just parrot it back to the client and then deliver the financials with the narrative to the client. And then as you start to do that and you get comfortable in it, you'll start to go off script and you'll start to bridge the gap. Because like the reality is AI is going to do a decent job at that. It's not going to be perfect, and it's definitely not going to be the best. The best is you being able to look at the numbers, understand the client's business, understand context around the big clients that they're signing or other things going on, to be able to add this like these other nuggets or whatever that the client's going to take away and be able to do things with. But I think you could literally just start by reading what the AI wrote.
It's kind of a template, right? And you always have to fact check everything, because I still get really worried about that. But I use this example within my law firm, as the lawyers don't like to have a blank canvas. It's like when it's not something that's their strong point. So if it's something like whatever it is that's not where you want to spend the time, or not something you went to school for, have AI give you a draft, and then you can customize that to your way of talking to people, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So Terrell, I wanted to go back to a comment that you made earlier when we were prepping for this session about, if you're the leader of the firm, you might be thinking like this already, but how can you explain this to your team that they should start to be making this shift towards these client expectations?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is just understanding that it is not an easy thing to do, because as a leader, you have different aspirations for the organization, you have a different perspective. I mean, the pressure you experience as a leader is very different from the rest of the team. And sometimes that pressure leads you to evolve faster than other people on the team. And I think as a leader, first understanding like they don't have the same perspective that I have. They may not have the same motivation that I have. Like if this goes wrong with a client, the client may not pick up the phone and call them first. They're going to call me first. And just understanding like that's going to play a role in how fast I adapt to this. And so I think having that compassion with my team and that empathy to understand like, hey, they may not have the full context that I have. And so me having to recognize that I might have to move a little slower with the team than I would myself. Like I may expect myself, hey, I need to make this change right now. But with my team, we may have to like spread it out, and we may have to explain to them a little bit more of, hey, as Enrico said, the AI is not here to replace you. It is here to give you the first draft or to help enhance you.
Yeah. And then, thank you. And then, Michael, you were talking about more business acumen and this and that. Like, what is a short list of skill sets for your team, not necessarily for you, that they're going to have to brush up on?
Ask questions. That's a very short list.
Give me an example. What should I be asking?
The problem that most accountants run into is that we are taught as experts, right? We are taught as we have all the answers and we're quick to answer questions. That's why we struggle whenever a client asks us a question. Before they even ask us the full question, we're like, yeah, I know how to do that. Like, let me show you. But the issue is, and I say this to my first year staff, our clients lie to us, not because they want to lie to us, or it's because they have no clue. Everybody wants to be loved and they don't want to look stupid. And these are CEOs, right? They're already embarrassed that they don't understand the finances of their business, right? So they're coming to you and then they're looking up on Google the day before they talk to you. They go, hey, Terrell, I need a cash forecast. No, you don't, right? So the idea is like, ask more questions. Like, oh, cool, yeah, Mr. CEO, you need a cash forecast. Like, what exactly are you trying to do? Oh, well, and then they didn't explain their situation. You have the accounting knowledge to give them what they need. Maybe they don't need a cash forecast. Maybe they're just worried about not being able to make payroll next week, right? Maybe they're just, whatever their problem is. So I always say this, ask questions, peel the onion. You know, lesson 1 is always ask enough questions, peel the onion. The person, trusted, we used to, 10 years ago, we used to work trusted business advisor. I don't know what the word is these days, but.
I still like that.
It still is? Okay.
Accounting hero.
Accounting hero, I like that.
Much better, yeah.
So it isn't, we imagine trusted business advisor as the guy who has all the answers. But I think a trusted business advisor is the guy who have all the right questions.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's totally true. I mean, the first question you should ask your client is just, what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish this year? And we talked about this when we were on stage. If their answer was, I want to buy a house and I want to grow my business as fast as possible, that's your opportunity to now give the first bit of advice, which is you can't do both. So which one do you want to prioritize? Because if you want to buy the house, we got to make the business as profitable as possible so you can qualify for the mortgage. If you want to grow the business as fast as possible and push off the house, then we're going to plow every single dollar back into it, and that's not going to look great when you go to your banker. Mm-hmm. And that just starts with a single question. And then imagine how helpful that is to your client when you actually are having them work in the right direction and they're not doing something again and again that's not creating the value or delivering the result that they want over time.
Instant of value.
Totally.
Instant, right? With asking a question.
And we will have follow-up questions on that, but I think we need to take a break, Gail.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsor, BOTKEEPER, and then we'll be back with your second CPE code for the session.
Awesome.
Reconciling accounts at month's end can quickly get out of hand. Manually hunting through hundreds or thousands of transactions in an attempt to settle a difference can leave your head spinning and your schedule ruined. But Autobank Rec is here to save the day. No more comparing statements line by line. Let's take a closer look. It all starts in the Autobank Rec module, which automatically pulls in the bank and credit card accounts on your client's QBO or Zero Ledger. Information includes the account name and type, whether it's linked to a Smart Connect account, the last reconciliation period and whether it was completed, the number of unreconciled transactions between BOTKEEPER and the GL, the source of the statement, whether from an upload or Smart Connect, the statement or Smart Connect balance, the balance in the GL, the difference between the two balances, the assignee responsible for the reconciliation, and finally, an action menu that allows for some additional options. Let's take a look at a reconciliation. This one has begun, but isn't complete just yet. We'll click the action menu and select Resume Reconciliation. Summary information is shown in this area. To the right, you'll find a formula that reveals any outstanding difference between your balances. Here we see $637.18 difference. Next, we see the possible match options. No match means a transaction was on either the GL or the statement, but not on both. Possible match means the platform found two similar transactions, but there is a minor difference that could mean they do not match. Here we see there is one possible match. The difference between them is the date. As luck would have it, this transaction is for the exact amount of our difference. So once we confirm the match, the account is changed to a $0 difference. Confident matches are ones the platform was able to match with no differences. In this case, almost the entire reconciliation was handled by automation. Just our one outstanding match needed confirmation. Now we can click Complete Reconciliation, and we're done. When a statement isn't available yet, you can also reconcile using the Smart Connect feed until the statement becomes available. We'll start this reconciliation and see how it works. Note that because we're comparing the GL to the Smart Connect feed, we can see the confidence rating for the transactions, as well as whether they have been added to the GL. Transactions that are still in the bank feed will not have a corresponding match in the GL. Once it moves to the GL, the platform will be able to match it. Otherwise, your experience will be practically identical to matching against a statement. Now let's review some of the other actions available in Autobank Rec. When you select Review Reconciliation History, you'll be brought to the History per Month tab, where you can review current and past reconciliations. By clicking View Statement, you're brought to the statement used for the reconciliation. You can also visit the folder where the statements are stored by selecting Open Statement Folder. Finally, you can choose to open QBO or 0 directly from the action menu next to the account. You can also see an audit log for each reconciliation. Just open the reconciliation and select the Audit Log tab. This will show you every action that's occurred throughout the reconciliation process. You can view this log by transaction or by timeline, which shows you what happened and when. You can export these logs to do CSV files. And that's Autobank Rec. Month-end close is now simpler than ever.
And we are back. And before we get back into this session, we wanted to make sure that, first of all, you saw these incredibly great shirts that BOTKEEPER sent us. And then also, we wanted to provide you with the second CPE code for this session. So be sure to write that down if you're planning on collecting CPE for this session. Okay, one of the things we were talking about during our commercial break was that when we're talking about an ideal client experience, one way to really make that experience shine is if you know an awful lot about your client. And a lot of accountants have been moving into the arena of creating niche practices where they focus on clients in a particular industry or a particular vertical, or maybe they focus on clients who all have a particular same kind of problem. But in any case, when we're talking about niche clients, it gives you the ability to really get under the skin of the client and learn almost as much as if you were running that business yourself. And I'm going to start with Terrell because he does this with his law firms. He's got a specific practice for law firms.
Yeah, so I would say when we started the firm, we were probably like most accountants. Whoever would pay us, that's who was going to be our client.
Right.
And I quickly realized that this is an awful strategy because it is exhausting, the mental switching between industries. And like I said, I, as the CEO of the company, I have a different motivation for how quickly I can move through those industries because I'm dealing with the client so much. But I realized our staff was struggling to make those mental switches. So we said, all right, what if we just really narrow it down to where, let's say, if they only had like one type of industry or one type of client or a general idea of a focus area that they could actually get better. And what we started to realize is the team was happier because they didn't have to make that mental switch between industries. Also, it became a lot easier for our marketing because we started to really understand the problems that our ideal clients were having. And even in some of our marketing strategies, we realized some of the more successful things that we were doing had nothing to do with finance. I mean, we started doing a podcast series that was called the Law Firm Success Series, where I just sit down and I talk to lawyers about what success stories they want to talk about. We don't even talk about finance, but it became a huge lead generator because that's what they want to talk about. That's what's on their mind. Because at the end of the day, I have this philosophy that, no business owner really wants to just say, hey, I want to talk about accounting today. Like, it's not their primary focus. But I think that if we could really focus on a specific industry, we can understand what is it that keeps them up at night? Like, what are the things that they're excited about? And then if we could understand those, then we can do our job of translating, well, hey, here's how finance either enhances or, hey, here's some of the pitfalls that's going to stop you from getting there. And what we realize is it made them value us a lot more because we then translated what we do to what they care about.
Well, speaking of valuing you a lot more, does this lend itself to, rather than flat fee for a tax return or for preparing financial statements, but more of a year-round relationship where you can also have year-round fees?
Yeah, I think it definitely opened the door for that more and more because now since we understand the things that they care about, like if there's a major change that happens in the industry, like we've seen so many different law firms, we know how that change is happening. Like we know that, hey, this state has made a change in the state bar rules. So now the clients see a relationship with us as not just, hey, they're going to give me my numbers. they're going to help me understand my own business more. And so they're more willing to say, hey, I don't know what this whole advisory thing is, but it sounds like I need it because I need to have more conversations with you, which then allows us to grow our business more, and it allows us to charge more premium prices because they see us as a huge value add to their entire business strategy, and not just, hey, the people I call when I want to, apply for a loan, or the people that send me a report once a month.
It also, you then, as a result, actually know their industry. So the conversations you're having are way more relevant, and it probably makes it easier for you to find new clients, because I'm sure if I'm a law firm or any business, when I'm going and doing a Google search for bookkeeping, I'm probably doing law firm bookkeeping solutions near my location, or I'm not just doing a wide open generic search of I need some sort of finance or accounting solution. You want it tailored to the thing that you do.
Absolutely. And I think that, social media has really helped us understand the algorithms that are at work. I think it's just the algorithm is just a picture of human behavior. And one of the things that I study with the algorithms is things are getting more and more specific. People aren't just looking for a generic search. They're like, how do I make X, Y, Z? And they're getting very specific in their search. And I think people are getting that way when it comes down to accounting solutions. I want to find an accountant that is good for personal injury law firms, or I want to find an accountant who understands, trust accounting. They're no longer just searching, give me an accountant in my area, because I think as so many different things have changed around our buying habits, and it goes back to that whole overall experience, people want to know, will this solve the problem that I am trying to solve? And I think the more clear we got about who we do business with, and I think any firm, if you have a niche, the more vocal you get about that, the more people will feel like, wow, they can really solve my problems.
Riches in the niches, 1,000%.
Yeah.
We have this poster in our office, and it says, accounting services, $19. Accounting services for lawyers, $199. Accounting solver services for lawyers who have a cash flow problem, $1,999. And I think it's that same idea, right? And I think you guys both mentioned it. Niches, a lot of people think first thing is industry niches, like lawyer, which is fantastic, but also problem niches, right? You can go deep or you can go wide. If you put it on this, and once you do that, you created this matrix. And the thing is, if you can go deep and you can go wide, where you're doing, hey, we do accounting services for law firms in Las Vegas area that are struggling with cash flow. Now you're that one person. Yes, it seems very scary, very daunting. You're like, oh, that's all I'm doing. But then you're going to be able to do that so well. Like you mentioned, hey, you understand what's going on in the state bar, right? You're always in sync with them. Sometimes for example, we work a lot with international businesses, and tariff had come up recently. And we know that as soon as we see the news, we're the one that's calling our client going, hey, we need to talk. Instead of they calling us and saying, hey, they need to talk. Yeah. Right. So and now all of a sudden you switch around. Now you're in that elevated space, and again, premium charges, right? We only have a handful of clients, but our average clients are usually 10x or 5x of what most bookkeeping companies charge.
Yep.
So, and we don't get there by being everything to everyone, because I'm the same way. 15 years ago, I was like, if you got a checkbook, I'll take you on. Right.
Well, when you get into that everything to everyone, can that also happen, though, in your niche? I mean, law firms, for example, we seem to be using that example over and over again in the session. So, law firms kind of inside out, but then is there a spillover? It's like, I don't want just the accounting, but I want this that maybe you don't do. How do you deal with that?
You have a network, right? You have a network of people that you trust and talk to. Like, for example, Deep Sky, we do outsource CFO work. We don't do any tax work. Mm-hmm. But we know tax people, and now we're able to refer that. And
if you refer to someone, they're more likely to refer that business that you want back to you.
And you're having that conversation. Imagine a tax accountant, right? A tax accountant, a CFO, and a bookkeeper walks into a bar. They're gonna have a better conversation than talking to the client. Now the client is, it's like playing telephone. Now he's gonna tell the tax guy. The tax guy's going, oh no, that's not how it is. Right? Yeah. Imagine we say, hey, we're all working together for this one client. We all know law firms very well, right? And then now we're speeding up our conversation, and now they have one window. Better services as well. Again, everybody gets to charge higher prices because now we're taking less time within ourselves to work with each other, and our clients is getting more value.
Yeah, I mean, the higher prices is like mostly indicative of the value you're delivering. You're not setting a
1000%.
generic dashboard. You're setting a dashboard that's very specific to all the key, KPIs or legal metrics that the firm has that they care about with the language that they can understand, so that their ability to consume it, process, and act on it is so much better than just seeing some generic dashboard. And I'm willing to pay more for that because that's going to allow me to make quicker business decisions and accelerate my business or the objectives I have set for the company.
1000%.
And I think it does open the door for you to then get into other areas. I mean, I always think about the example of Amazon where they started off just selling books, and people had such a good experience buying books there that they eventually started asking, I wonder what else I can buy here. And I think the same thing happens with an accounting firm. It's like when whoever your niche is, if they have a really good experience, they may start asking the question, well, what else can I do? And that's how for us, like, we got into doing data analytics for law firms. Because, I mean, a lot of it was just really doing the analytics on the finance. And they were like, well, I wonder if they can analyze some of the operational stuff. And it became a new line of business for us. And then we had some of the largest law firms between Canada and the US are like, hey, can you train some of my in-house accounting staff? And we're like, well, we didn't think about it, but what's the price tag you're willing to pay? And the number was like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll figure it, because it still allows us to work in that industry, but it doesn't, pull us so far away from what we do and who we serve. And I think by being very clear, we could go deeper into the industry. And I think what it does is it deepens the relationship we have with our clients, because now if a client wants to consider a different option, now they're like, man, I have all of these connections with the TL Turner Group. Like, do I really want to break all this up and then go find pieces of this elsewhere?
Right.
Totally.
I think that would be ideal, where the clients are like, hey, do this and that for me. Just like I said, they're coming to you for more things, like I have a fire in my house. On the flip side, I think they sometimes don't know to ask. So I use the example of you go to a doctor, a general practitioner for whatever, but you have this little weird thing on your hand that you don't quite identify, right? Would you ask your general practitioner? Probably not. You'd go to a dermatologist because you think that that's who you're supposed to go to. But maybe that general practitioner has a dermatologist that he works with in a little back office. So how do you showcase all of the things you can do when they wouldn't normally think to ask you for those things?
Yeah, so we started coming up with what we would call just assessments or checklists, to where if we wanted to understand if they needed data analytics, well, what if we came up with a complimentary just assessment we do once a year, and we can give them a little bit of taste of what data analytics is and tell them, hey, we're giving you a complimentary service in this. This is something we do for a lot of other clients, to give them a little bit of a taste of what that looks like. And they can then know that we do it, and they've gotten to experience what that's like, and it becomes a lot more easy of a sale to offer it to them because they got exposure. And I think about when I was growing up, my family, we used to love going to the big box stores where they would have samples on Sunday, and it just gave you a chance to try different stuff. And so we looked at, if we took that same sample grocery store concept and we did it in our accounting firm, how could we give people the sample in a very cost-effective and very, let's put a very clear scope of work around it? How do we give them a taste of it? And if they want more of it, we know where to tell them how to buy it, how to add this to their service offerings.
And you said a word which is scope. And I think that Enrico had mentioned this earlier about people are terrified about that scope creep of how do you not get past a certain ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, that's where the margin erosion happens. Your business can be going great. You're look at all my clients that I'm adding, and look at revenues are going great. And then all of a sudden you start to realize, why am I not putting more money in my pocket? Why do I need to hire more and more people to serve the same amount of revenue that I had? And it happens slowly. It's one of those where it just happens in the cracks and corners of the client relationships. And frankly, figuring out scope creep is really tough, because the only way for you really quantify it or identify it is in data. You got to start to look at, okay, well, how many clients was this person serving before? And I thought they had an extra 20% capacity, but they don't. And then why is that? And then you got to deep dive into the client data to get those answers. The nice thing is technology is getting to a point where, and AI is really powerful. You can ask it things like, hey, which of my clients appear to have scope creep? And it can look at all the data points and say, this client is producing more transactions, or there are more tasks associated with this client than ever before. 10% increase on a month-over-month basis. And it's not going to have the answer. For whatever reason, maybe those 10 tasks take no time. But at least it will guide you or point you in the right direction for you to double click.
It's not going to analyze the result. It'll say, here's what I found, and now you have to figure out why.
It will give the recommendation. I mean, the AI is pretty cocky or confident. It'll say,
It was thinking no.
this is what I believe the answer to be, and then it'll give supporting. Yeah, here's why, which it is nice because in a fast-paced world where you have very limited time, at least you can be like, oh, well, let me look into that. Yeah. Whereas before, it's the having to start a process of okay, I have block out some time to start looking at my clients and looking through their data and calling all my staff and figuring out what they think, perspective versus what the numbers say. So I think you'll see it in data, and I think scope creep. There's a lot of tools and technology out there that are going to make it easier than ever for you to monitor, track, and then your clients are going to love it. Because the other thing, I used to have to call clients and be like, hey, your price has to go up so much because the scope has changed. And they're like, I don't understand, how is it changing? What changed?
Now you're defending yourself.
Now you're defending your increase, whereas now you can be like, you are processing 50 more transactions per month than you ever did, 10 more tasks, we're doing this for you, and here's why.
Nice.
Don't want the price increase? We'll stop doing all those things.
Very good. Okay, we're going to take a really quick break again and hear one more word from our sponsor, BOTKEEPER, and then we will be back with your third CPE code for this session.
Awesome.
Reviewing the books at month's end for exceptions can be painful. A thorough review can take a long time, and you can still overlook them. So BOTKEEPER created Bot Review. Bot Review continuously scans the general ledger, looking for transactions that need to be reviewed for 13 different exceptions. When it finds them, Bot Review produces a report for each exception type it finds. The progress bar at the top tells you how many and what percentage of exceptions have been completed, are in progress, or haven't been started under the Exception Report tab. We see there are 7 exception reports generated for the selected time period. Click on Select for the one you want to review. Here we'll click into the Duplicate Transactions report. You still have easy access to all your other reports, while your current report is highlighted here in blue. Beneath this are the Exception Reports transactions that need attention. You can choose to edit some details in line, or click the blue Edit text to the right of the transaction line for even more options. Edit any information, then click Cancel or Save Changes. You can also click multiple transactions in the report to perform bulk edits. The actions available to you will change based on which report you're viewing. When you've finished addressing every exception in every report, you'll be able to click the Mark Review Complete button in the upper right, leaving you with squeaky clean books. Bot Review takes the tension out of month-end review, saving you tons of time and improving your accuracy. It's just another great reason to hop on board with BOTKEEPER.
Welcome back, and we would like to have you right now record the third CPE code for this session. So make sure you get that written down if you're planning on claiming CPE credit for this session. And I think we have some questions coming in from the audience.
We do. There's 2 at least that I'd like to ask for now, but if you have a couple other questions, please feel free to add them in the question box. Okay, so this I'm going to toss to Michael. Do you fear the client will want a one-stop shop instead of having a CFO, a bookkeeper, and a tax accountant?
Since they all walked into the bar together.
I think they want one window of contact, right? And then they want one source of truth. Do they want one-stop shop? They will tell you that they want one-stop shop. They will say, hey, I like one-stop shop where everybody, but the issue is I don't think that's what they really want. Like I said, clients lie to you not because they want to, but because they think that's the correct answer, right? So by explaining to your clients that, hey, I am your CFO, I'm your one window of contact, I'm your one source of truth, but then I'm working with Terrell, who's expert in legal bookkeeping. I'm working with BOTKEEPER because they're great at AI and they're doing all the transactions. I think, and then I'm also now working with Gail because she's a tax expert. I just simply cannot be that great. And they will understand that because they also know that they are experts in what they do. So their trust in me is that I know what I'm doing and I know what I don't know. Right? And I think that elevates me.
Walmart's a great example of that. It tries to be a one-stop shop for everything, but if you're in construction and you need a certain tool, or you're trying to figure out what the right tool is, I can tell you right now, there's no contractor that's walking through the door of Walmart hoping to find that tool that they can get or need at Walmart. They're going to Granger's, they're going to Home Depot, they're going to Lowe's, where they know that's all they do. And so they're going to have everything under the sun for that need, and they'll have people there who can actually talk about it. Like people at Walmart are not going to walk you through what and how, whatever the tool selection is that they have and how it's going to be applicable to your need.
But I will also qualify that statement. If you want to be that one-stop shop, let's say for law firms, you can. That's your niche, right? My niche is this vertical, and I do tax, bookkeeping, CFO, but only for law firm. That's a niche as well, right? Again, we talked about going wide or going deep.
Yeah.
You might go super deep on one industry. Maybe you can do that.
So then the follow-up question is, what is your responsibility when you recommend another company and the client has an issue with that recommended company or person?
That's super tough. That's why I created a CFO club. The idea is because there are a lot of crappy companies out there, unfortunately. So it is very important because in business, your reputation is everything, right? So I think it's very important for you to know whoever you're referring to be able to understand them, work with them once or twice, or at least test things out and really be able to stand by it. I have made recommendations where I don't know the person, but I'm upfront with it. I'm telling the client, like, hey, these are two guys that I know, but besides having a beer with them, I don't know anything else. And it's on you to do the verification and do all that. And then
It's
they
on the
appreciate
client
it. It's on the client. Yeah, I have done those referrals, but I try to keep all of my referrals people that are close with me.
And even if they do have a bad experience or they don't want to work with the person you referred, that's not the end of the world. Bad experiences, there's no one that's perfect. This is what I've told when it's happened to me. Like, hey, I'm sorry that happened. Listen, no one's perfect. I can tell you right now, these are vendors that I've worked with, for these other 99 clients, they love them. I can get you the references all day long. You had a bad experience. Your choice now is whether you want to give them a second shot or find someone else. And it doesn't hurt my feelings either way. All I'm here is to be a resource and help you any way I can. And if you just say that, what's your client? They can't get too mad at you.
Upfront and honest.
Yeah.
And I think, for us, we don't do any tax work, so we refer all of that out. And so a lot of times what we've done is, if we didn't really know the person we're referring or the company we're referring to very, very well, what I always preface with all of our clients are, hey, here's a person that does, tax work in this space. Here are some 5 questions that you should ask when you're vetting them. So we help them, guide them and say, hey, here are the questions they should ask. And hey, you should listen to how they answer it. If they answer it to your level of comfort, maybe this is the person you should move forward with. If they don't, then I would say don't move forward with that person. And I think when we started doing that, people would go into those conversations feeling like they were the ones that was making the decision, not, hey, well, I just hired them because Terrell recommended it. And I think as we kind of helped them make that decision, it stopped it being a, hey, if you have a bad experience, hey, you kind of we helped you go through the evaluation so they don't blame us for the bad experience.
Great.
Yeah. Again, we don't have all the answers. We don't need to have all the answers, right? But help them with that, being upfront and honest, and help them walk through that process.
Excellent. I'm going to toss it back to Gail because I think we just have about 2 minutes to go.
Well, I think we've talked a lot about having a great client experience, and it seems like the conversation has led to part of having a great client experience is having great clients, or being able to choose the clients that you're going to be able to provide those great services to. So if we've got people watching who want to go down this path, what's the game plan? How do they start thinking about identifying what an ideal client is and then putting together a package for that client? Mike, I'm going to start with you.
I always say start where you're at, use what you have, right, and do what you can. So if you already have a client list, who do you like, right? Who do you like? Who are you making money on, right? Who do you who are you afraid to call every week? Those are probably not the clients that you want. You want to refer those out, right? But who are the guys that you're looking forward to? Oh, I can't wait to share this with them. And I think that comes naturally.
I would second that. I was going to say, you just think about the clients that when you're working on them, you're enjoying the work and the conversations you have that you enjoy having. And that's the easiest. So if it's like, wow, I actually really enjoy, or I'm fascinated with restaurants, or maybe you have a personal passion for one industry of your clients, that's probably also the clients that you enjoy working on, start there. And you can you don't have to dump all your other clients. So if you've got clients in a bunch of different industries and you've got, let's say, 3 or 5 that are restaurants, you can say, okay, going forward, I'm going to start to optimize the whole practice to do everything I can to be like the best in restaurants. I'm going to focus time, effort, and energy on building restaurant dashboards versus dashboards for all my clients. I'm going to focus on materials and marketing and updating my site for restaurants. So you can start with a practice that is general and just move like slowly and methodically into a niche.
And you can still take on the guys that come that's not a restaurant. It's like, hey, I'm a movie shop. Is that okay? Yeah, sure, why not? Like, I'm not optimized for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think we took a perspective of just taking, I would say, extreme personal responsibility, where we did an assessment. We looked at all of our clients. We said, okay, all right, for each client, what was their goal? What was important to them? And in the last year that they worked with us, did we help them get any closer? And there were some clients that we really enjoyed working with. They were great and they were profitable, but we didn't help them get closer to their goal. So I was like, we got to take personal responsibility and say, maybe we're not the right firm for them. And we had to help them find someone else, because it's like, at the end of the day, if we're not helping them get closer to their goals, then we're not doing the best service to them. And so we had to take all the advice that they said, plus we added, if we can't help you get where you're trying to go, then we got to respect your agenda enough to say, hey, maybe we're not the right fit, or maybe we need to make some changes. And if we can't fix that gap, then we will help you find someone who is a good fit.
Okay. All right, well, thank you all so much for incredibly great information, and I hope we are putting you guys on the path of leading to better experiences with your clients. We are going to get ready to move on to our next session. Remember, first, if you're claiming CPE and you're leaving us, which we don't recommend because we think you should stay for the whole 2 days, you click the CPE button at the top of the screen and you can enter the codes we gave you and get your CPE certificate. We are about to move into a session on tax to financial planning and recurring revenue. We think you won't want to miss this. We'll see you at the top of the hour.